All right, welcome to Clocktower Files. I am your host, Oracle.
And co-host Raven.
And we are here to welcome you to our very first podcast ever.
Woo-hoo.
We have no idea what we're doing, so bear with us. We are the Clocktower Files. We are a podcast that is going to be mostly dedicated to the DC universe. I know for me, especially, kind of an emphasis on female characters because that's kind of my area of expertise. But we will focus on everything from comics to movies, TV shows, maybe even a little video games if we get there. But kind of anything DC related, we have access to and not limited to the Birds of Prey specifically or those characters, but literally the entire DC universe and all of their connected media. What are some things we're going to cover in the show, Raven?
So some things that we're going to be discussing are definitely costumes throughout the generations from start until current. We'll be going over specific characters, so people from the Birds of Prey, as well as characters outside. So it could be anybody from the DC universe, including males. We're not just
Definitely not biased here. We welcome all gendered characters. I'm super excited actually to get to one of our costume/fashion shows where we talk about the costume choices of a specific character throughout the ages, because I definitely haven't seen that done on a podcast before. I have seen it online a little bit, but comic characters specifically are so defined by their costumes.
Yes.
Clearly seems to be like a thing that should be discussed a little more because the iconography of that costume, that outfit, is really kind of what makes the character before you read a single word about them. So
yeah, that's very true.
So I'm very excited to get to one of those. This too is yesterday was the official release of the Wonder Woman film. So we've talked about some of the future episodes we're planning to do, but I think our probably first real episode is probably going to be a review of Wonder Woman, just because it's literally the newest, hottest thing happening right now. I have already seen it, but Raven has not. So
we're gonna go see it
yeah,
tonight.
we're gonna go see it tonight or tomorrow, depending on seat availability. But yeah, and if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, go out, see it. It is good. If you don't have a friend, go by yourself. Wonder Woman won't judge you. Wonder Woman will thank you for it. What else are we going to do with the show? I know I want to do a few episodes dedicated to the Birds of Prey TV show, because that's kind of what started me on all of this. I know, I'd love to focus on, instead of doing two, which I think is very different for a lot of podcasts that Raven and I have discussed, we're going to maybe focus on an arc of a book. So we're going to focus on a clump of issues instead of do individual issues, unless we view a specific issue of terrible importance. We will be focusing on an overall arc and the story and themes of that story instead of just breaking down singular issues or pages or panels, again, unless there's dire importance or so we're going to be kind of reviewing books and stories in at least a different way that from what we've seen other podcasts do. So hopefully you'll join us for our future episodes on that. We haven't decided what the first one will be. We're just aiming for getting through this first introduction episode, and then Wonder Woman next, and then we will see what the future unfolds for us. Anything else, Raven, for what we kind of hope to do, or what you'd personally like to hope see us do?
So, well, I know you really want to do Wonder Woman next time, which we can totally do Wonder Woman. But I think after that, we should kind of more so go into perhaps the Oracle role.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And then after that, we can go into how she got her own team together. So, like Black Canary and Huntress and focus more sort of on the Birds of Prey initially because I know that is your niche.
Yep, that is my niche.
So, and then after that we can branch out, obviously, because our database is open to all of DC. So
Exactly. Cool. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do. Again, hopefully you join us for the future and experience this wild ride with us because we don't know where this is going.
hang tight.
We will hold hands and figure it out together. And then I guess a little bit about ourselves now. You can call me your friendly host, Oracle. I originally started getting into DC superheroes at a very early age. I, of course, started with, like the X-Men cartoon show of the 90s, like so many people, but I really grew up with the 90s Batman films. Definitely Batman 89 and 100% sure Batman Returns. That you will see, I'm sure I will bring up all the time because that is a common factor in my life, which then led to the Birds of Prey, which then led to comics and a nonstop obsession of those comics. And what about you, Raven?
So mine started at a very early age. My dad was very into comics, so he collected everything, not just DC or Marvel. He collected a whole bunch of stuff. And then plus the fact that along with DC and Marvel comic books, there were of course all the TV shows. So I watched the 60s Batman, I watched the 90s cartoon Batman, the Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet.
Yeah, I love Green Hornet. So I watched all of those, of course, the 90s X-Men. And then once we moved, it was sort of like, we're still, I still knew about comics and stuff like that, but it just wasn't as heavily until I met you in PE class freshman year of high school.
Yep.
And then after that, he sort of took me under his wing and kind of led me more towards DC. Although I still watch Marvel. Still Marvel, but yeah.
Definitely. I'm not a Marvel hater, everyone out there. I promise you, I do have a special place in my heart for Marvel. I just don't love them quite as much as I love. Quite as much as I love DC. But I love Captain America. Especially too, the movies really, I think, really kind of brought me back to the Marvel side. Because for a long time it was just the X-Men, and I kind of so-so with the other characters, but
Spider-Man's my boy, okay.
Spider-Man.
I love Spider-Man.
I was never into Spider-Man.
You didn't like the theme song from the 90s?
I did like the theme. I did like the theme song, but I was never really into Spider-Man again until the movies, the first two, and then again the second and then the third one were not so good. But
I agree. But
and then the reboots, Spider-Man, not bad. But it's always the movies. Marvel definitely does really wonderful things with their films, and I think that's really what's kept bringing me back to hop back and forth between the fences of DC and Marvel. So we're only 8 minutes in.
Are we really?
Yeah, we're only 8 minutes in. We have a long way to go.
It seems like forever.
It does feel like forever, which is the downside of recording. If for those of you out there who've never recorded or never done a podcast, that 5 minutes of speaking feels like 30 minutes.
I feel like I'm back in speech class.
Exactly. Then I don't know. I guess we're just gonna fill up time then. We'd warned you ahead of time, everyone. We didn't know where this was going or what we were doing. So this is just gonna be a conversation between friends. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the group.
Yeah. You're one of us now.
Yep. You're trapped. And don't even think about turning that dial. I see you out there. I really want to talk about Wonder Woman, but I'm not going to because I really want you to see it.
Yeah, I really want to watch it. 'Cause I saw all of this stuff on Facebook, and he was just like, "Oh my God, so amazing."
Yeah, I'm gonna save it for the review. But I'm also really glad that the public, not just comic people, but the reviewers and the critics and the public so far has seemed to have really good things to say about it. which almost has been unheard of.
Okay, wait, I gotta be.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I didn't actually read the article because I thought
Yeah,
it was
I
so
haven't.
ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
But it was about Wonder Woman's outfit and about, like, just,
Yeah.
what? Just, like, upsets me that they're like, oh my god, she's so scantily clad and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I haven't seen that about the movie. I have seen that in general though. Like recently Wonder Woman was
specifically, or it looked like it was
for
about
the film.
movie, yeah.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, she's covered more than she would be. Yeah, even kind of traditionally, like right outside of the introduction of her, like once she ditched the skirt, she's been pretty much in the same outfit forever, give or take some creative decisions. But for the most part, she's been in the same thing, so it shouldn't be a shock what Wonder Woman dresses like. But I haven't seen it for the movie itself, but not that long ago, the UN, and I'm totally getting my facts wrong here because I was not prepared to talk about this, but the UN, we're just rolling with the punches. I believe it was the UN, and I know it was a big thing. They, every so often, and again, I don't know the facts on this, but they do characters as like UN ambassadors. Winnie the Pooh has been a UN ambassador. And this past year, Wonder Woman was a UN ambassador, which frankly, let's be honest here, what character better suited for the role than a character who literally is an ambassador to man's world? Like, hello. Like the UN talking about peace and global connectivity and kind of, putting down your differences. Like what character is better for that than Wonder Woman? So Wonder Woman was, picked to be the UN ambassador character. And Gail Simone went, Linda Carter of Wonder Woman fame of the 70s went, and current Wonder Woman Gal went. And everyone was, super thrilled and happy. And of course, on the comic book world, everyone was super thrilled and happy. The public, however, or a fringe public group, was not thrilled, and their big argument was that she basically was dressed too provocatively, too slutty, and they stripped Wonder Woman of her UN title,
Oh my God, how ridiculous.
which I'm super offended by, because literally she's Wonder Woman, and then for the people who complain, again, it's the people who complain I often find who have zero background information and zero insight on history, because they would know that Wonder Woman is more than just a comic book icon. She's more than a piece of American history and Americana and pop culture. She's also quite famously known to be a feminist icon. So the fact that people are bitching about Wonder Woman being scantily clad is so laughable to me. Just so laughable, because she literally is a feminist icon. She was on the cover of the first issue of Miss Magazine, the premier feminist, speech, rag, the first place where, publication for women, by women, for women, and the issues and troubles they, deal with on the daily. They chose Wonder Woman to represent their first imagery. Literally, feminism at its core, the earliest, coming together and publication of feminism chose Wonder Woman as their icon. And here is a group of people who are saying Wonder Woman is too sexual and anti-feminist and all of this stuff. And again, any glimpse of history would tell you otherwise. So yeah, I was so offended and so upset. And look at Winnie the Pooh, he doesn't even wear pants. He got to be a UN icon, an ambassador. Like, what is that? So no, I hadn't seen people complain about the level of dress Wonder Woman is wearing in the film. I have seen people complain about the style of her suit in the film. But that was actually back when Batman versus Superman was coming out, when she first was released. I saw a lot of that, like, it doesn't look like Wonder Woman, and it's not bright enough, and it's not close enough to the original styling, even though visually it is. I can see texturally and you know, you're talking about actual like fabric and detailing and, you know, like all the extra lines on her bodice and stuff. Sure, that's not direct from the comics and not direct from the original source, but her color palette's the same. She's still wearing a warrior outfit. She's still wearing a very short warrior outfit. And to be for that, me being me, as I was watching the film, which I'm not going to get into, but as just on this kind of discussion of costume, I was kind of, again, I'm really picky about fabrics, which if anyone's ever worked with me.
Yeah, I have worked with him.
Yeah, poor Raven. She's heard it all. If you've ever done a costume with me, you know I'm super picky about fabrics and material and what's appropriate for the character.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
what's appropriate for the character. Because I'm not just simply making a costume. I'm trying to make an accurate portrayal of a character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just throwing on a costume or making a costume to say that it is a costume. You know, it's not just a face value representation. I want it to make sense for the character because apparently I think I am a costume designer for, you know, Hollywood. So there has to be a reason and story behind every stitch. And so, yeah, for Wonder Woman, you know, for the film, it, you know, I'm sure it makes sense, and for movability and all of that, and to the just kind of the way superhero costumes in film are going, it clearly is a product of the times and a product of what they already use for everyone else. So it only makes sense that Wonder Woman gets the same materials that all, you know, everyone else is getting their suits made out of. But I would have liked, you know, personally, again, something that's a little more real, because like clearly that's not real fabric, like, you know, like that's not leather, that's not armor, it's this weird space age stuff that every superhero's suit is made out of, and I don't even know what it is. Like, it's not foam. I don't think it's neoprene. Like, you know, like I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what that fabric is, but it's mysterious Hollywood superhero costume fabric that I don't know, because it's not spandex. Like, I don't know what that is. It literally is like this weird rubbery plastic. I don't know what it is. So like, you know, like I would prefer her wearing something a little more, again, realistic is the word I would use, but I don't mean that literally in the sense of, you know, I just mean like you know, like you look at an ancient warrior, they're not going to be wearing this weird space age.
Yeah. They're going to be wearing what they have been
Yeah,
wearing.
they're going to wear, you know, an arm, and I don't expect her either to wear like a full metal, you know, armor suit, but
because that would make sense. She wouldn't be able to move around if she was
exactly, because I take that into consideration, but we can make a fake one, you know, like like I don't expect it to actually be metal, but we can make a fake one, you know, a fake body, you know, plate or something. And so that would be my one complaint, is because it's that weird space age like liquid rubber stuff. But everyone wears that. You know, you look at Thor, it's the same thing. You look at, you know, Captain America, it too is that like weird plastic rubbery stuff.
But okay, so, but if you're going to shoot into that, I don't know, because they live, well, I know Thor lives on a different planet, so who's to say what materials?
That's true.
You
Yeah,
know,
like that's true. Which that was another thing that bothered me, which is totally off topic. But like I personally, again, I don't know Marvel that well, obviously. I am a DC kid through and through, and Gotham kid more specifically through and through to that. But I prefer Thor to be a god than like a weird space alien. Like, I like my gods to be gods and not from space.
Before they did these movies, I didn't even care about Thor. Okay.
I didn't either.
Let's be real.
To be honest, I didn't either. Yeah, no, I totally didn't care. Poor Thor and poor Marvel. But that is a very good point. That who's to say what their stuff would be made out of? But Wonder Woman still, they didn't make her an alien,
right.
so.
Yeah, I know, but that's, I understand the difference that you're trying to make, but at the same time, I was like, well, you can't actually compare Thor
That's
to
very
to
true.
her because...
In context of film, no.
Yeah.
But in studio back rooms where we're sewing suits, yes. So yeah, that's a common complaint, but again, that was back when she first was revealed to Batman and Superman, that everyone was bothered about what she was wearing. But it clearly is a very, very literal interpretation of what she's worn for 75 years, just more modern.
Yeah, which is why I didn't understand why people.
Yeah, I don't understand the complaint.
I was like, Linda Carter, did you guys even watch those?
Yeah.
Watch those ones? Like.
Yeah, I don't understand. I didn't understand the complaint at all. And yeah, poor Linda Carter too. Like, she wasn't wearing warrior outfit. She was literally wearing satin.
Yes.
You know, like she was wearing like literally a satin bodice and satin blue hot pants. You know, like.
And yeah, maybe people did have issues with that, but because
I know, I almost wish we could go back in
Yeah,
time
me
to
too.
see what fans were saying when like Linda Carter came out, and they're like, "That's not Wonder Woman." Like, did
yeah.
they say that? Because of course now everyone's like, "That is Wonder Woman. That's the only Wonder Woman." So yeah, wouldn't that be interesting to?
I mean, I wish that we had computers back then so we could see all of the history behind it, but most of the time it would have been just word of mouth at that point.
It would have. Probably some random fanzine that they published in their garage, which did exist. I didn't really know that because that too, we're of this young generation. I was at a convention though, and I found some Star Wars like fanzines.
Really?
Yeah, and I wanted to buy them so badly, but I for whatever reason I ended up passing them up. But yeah, like I was like, oh my God, it's literally the early, and it was totally like the early fan fiction. Like it was literally the one big, and this is really why I wanted to buy it. Embarrassing, listeners, so embarrassing. There was a really good drawing of Han Solo in a Speedo, like on a space beach. And I was like, it's the early fan fiction. I love this. I love this early fan fiction art. Sexy Han Solo on a space beach in a Speedo. Like... And you just kind of imagine, which I don't know why we imagine this, but it's such a common thing that we don't imagine the fan generations of yesteryear to be sitting around drawing sexy pictures of our characters and doing the fan art fan slash stuff. And it's been around forever, everyone. I'm here to burst your bubble. We have discovered it's been around forever. So, but yeah, I should have bought it. But I didn't.
Yeah, we could have done a review and everything.
I know, yeah.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. Looking back, should have done it. But yeah, it's crazy out there. But yeah, I'd really be interested to see how people reacted to Wonder Woman when she first was released in the 70s with Linda. But yeah. But like even then, oh my gosh, look at the Batman stuff too. Everyone complains about Batman's costumes no matter what. Every time he comes out.
It doesn't matter.
And then it doesn't matter. There's always going to be someone who hates the costume, and then years later everyone loves loves the old costume because like everyone loves the 89 Batman and Batman Returns Batman costumes, even though like looking back, and I love them too, don't get me wrong, I love them. Probably just like for everyone else who loves them, it's because it's what we grew up with. But yeah, you look back at the movies, especially 89. 89 is such a rough film for like props and stuff because it was so ahead of its time. They clearly were shooting farther than poor production could handle. So like he couldn't move his head at all, and like you could like
watching it back. I was like, oh.
You could see he couldn't move, and you could see how thick the sculpting was. Not even that he couldn't move, but just the thickness of the sculpt was so thick. And then you compare it just to a few years later to Batman Returns, and everything is so much sleeker. Even though it's clearly the same costume design, but so much sleeker. Just some changes here and there in just a short period of time. But again, people complain about those suits, and then yet there's still throes and throes of people who love them. And then Batman, the Dark Knight series, the Nolan stuff. There's such a weird love-hate relationship with those suits. So yeah, no matter what, everyone's gonna hate it or love it, and there's always gonna be some fan divide. But it's just funny though that like at the same time over time there does grow this weird acceptance of it, and then everyone's like,
well, because now you're used to it, and then,
yeah.
and then they go, oh, well, you
yeah,
now
exactly, we're
go
gonna
ahead.
change it. New direction. Yeah. And like that too, like Catwoman is another good example. Like everyone loves Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman,
Yes, I do too.
but you look at her and she looks nothing like the comic.
Yeah. But it was so different that it still makes
And
sense.
exactly,
though,
it totally makes sense, especially.
Well, I got into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone did. Like, I don't think there are people, like, I've never run into someone who's like, oh, I hate the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. It's always across the board. Everyone loves her. But you look at her, yeah, she doesn't look like the comics. Her story isn't really like the comics. It's like a weird like, oh, I picked this and this and this of like certain history, moments of Catwoman. But yeah, she's clearly not the most
Iconic.
pure,
Catwoman.
the most
yeah.
iconic version of what comic people would call
Yeah.
Catwoman. But yet she is the most widely known Catwoman and beloved by fans and non-comic readers alike. So that too is another good example of how weird comic fandom is, and how it just takes certain elements to work really well, and then no matter what, people will love it. Because Michelle Pfeiffer, I actually had this conversation with a friend the other day, and he was like, oh, I don't really like, he likes Returns, but he likes 89 better. And I was like, that's funny, I like Returns better, and I like 89. And like I was saying earlier, it's so clear that they were ahead of their time in 89, and by the time Returns came around, they got to kind of streamline themselves, and kind of the rest of the world was kind of up to date where Tim Burton's vision kind of wanted to be. And I of course made the point that I love Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman because that is literally the turning point of my entire life. And he was like, oh, I don't really like Michelle. Like, again, I like her, but she's not like my favorite thing. And I'm like, stepping out of myself and looking at her, it's totally true. Like, she's not the most correct, air quotes, correct Catwoman. But she's has such the correct combination of elements of Catwoman.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of glazes over and just goes, that's Catwoman. So yeah, weird fandom stuff that just is fascinating to actually pick apart and look at. And I think fans should do that more instead of fight over how short Wonder Woman's skirt is. They should look at the psychology of why they're doing what they're doing instead of picking on the poor characters and their costumes, which they cannot control. So yeah, fun stuff like that. But yeah, what else? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing more of these, and yeah, I'd love to do. I'm super, as you can see, we're very enthusiastic about discussing costumes. So I'm very looking forward to exploring a singular character and their costume choices throughout time. Like,
well, I mean, maybe we should also let them know that, we did try and do a fan film.
yeah, oh my gosh, we've literally, if there's a fan thing, we've tried to do it. We started out as kind of a costume fan group, and then it was the boom of we were like late bloomers to it, but it was the boom of the early fan film and the boom of really kind of the first widely internet fire of the costuming world before it was cosplay. It wasn't cosplay yet. It was costuming. Cosplay was something very different. It was like very confined to the world of anime and manga fandoms. Costuming, what was the comic, or like the comic people were costuming, which that's totally disappeared now. It's funny how that kind of divide has vanished into thin air. But yeah, it was the early start of fan films where, like, literally at the time, there were a few new fan films, but like the earliest fan film I can think of was like the Grayson fan film, where it was literally about Dick Grayson, and he was older and he was married to Barbara, and then I don't know what happened to Batman, but like years later, like for some reason he feels the need to get suited back up. Like, that was like literally the first fan film I had come across, and kind of like the earliest one that I can think of. And then it was just like trickle and more, but that was, early 2000s, like 2002ish. And then when in high school, when we were really getting into it, was 2005 to 2008ish, when we were like really kind of like exploring these ideas. So yeah, first costume-ish group, then attempted fan films, which happened like 2 or 3 times and then never really got anywhere. Mostly because our actors were super flaky.
Yes, I was so flaky.
I know, we would literally be on top of the world. We would literally be running the world as the birds of prey if our actors weren't so flaky. And then yeah, we did costume group. Then we went back full-fledged into the costume group for a while. You could have found us at WonderCon and Big Wow in San Jose for a long time. And then, of course, both of those shows fizzled out, and that kind of also put a damper on our costuming future.
And then WonderCon's still around.
WonderCon's still around, just moved far away.
Now down south.
Yep. Now in Anaheim.
But, push his glasses up nose. Back in the day, it was San Francisco.
I know. Which too is super disappointing and total other tangent is that the Bay Area should really have more iconic conventions, and WonderCon and Big Wow too, but WonderCon was our big comic convention. All the other big cities have their own comic convention, or the sister conventions of Comic-Con, or even Wizard World or whatever. Everyone, all the big names, all have their big name convention. Ours was WonderCon, and then they moved it to Anaheim, and it was supposed to come back. Don't think I forgot about that.
I'm still waiting.
I'm still waiting. And then, of course, they never came back, and Anaheim definitely has them forever. And then every year, there's always a rumor that they're going to start up some Comic-Con related, WonderCon related convention up here, and of course, it never happens. But yeah, that definitely put a damper on us. And then we've had other people actually approach us for fan films. There was a Black Canary fan film in San Jose for a little bit that we were approached to help out on. That too fizzled out, but we weren't in charge of that, so it wasn't our fault. And then there was a series of short Catwoman fan films that I was actually asked to provide whips for. That's right, I have... You name it, I pretty much have it, especially if it's a female DC character. I pretty much have a costume or a prop that you could use. But I can't remember where they were filming. It was crazy far away, and it was short notice, and I wasn't just sending my whips off willy-nilly to people I didn't know. I was happy to go with them, but it was just such short notice that I couldn't provide them. They did get made, though. They had whips, but they didn't end up using them, which... That too, they're probably so happy I didn't go because I would have forced them to actually have whip scenes in the fan films.
Which would have been awesome because he knows how to use a whip too, you guys.
I just don't have these things. I also know how to use them. Because what's the point of having them if you can't use them? But yeah, because I do. I actually know how to use a whip. Self-taught. And I was trained by Michelle Pfeiffer. Again, see, we went right back to it, everyone. Right back to it. I told you it was coming. But it's true. I learned from watching Michelle Pfeiffer. Don't try that at home, though. I am just a weird freak of nature where I can happen to watch things and pick them up flawlessly. Do not get a whip and do not just go, well, Michelle Pfeiffer, I watched the movie once and I now know how to use a whip. No.
And I heard podcast person.
Exactly. I do not condone this at all. Do not follow my example. Just listen to my story. But yes, I did. And to be fair, I literally have that movie committed to memory. I started watching Batman Returns when I was 4 and literally haven't stopped. I could probably recite the entire movie to you right now, which I won't. But yeah, so I know. Yeah, that's a later show. The dramatic telling of Batman Returns by Oracle. Here on the Clocktower Files. Oh my God. But yeah, so, what else did we do?
We did do costuming for a while.
Yeah, we did costuming for a while. The fan films came and went and never really happened.
members come and go.
Yeah, members come and go because everyone's super flaky.
And then it was just you and me.
And yeah, then it was just you and me. And then I even tried for a little bit to do like a review blog. I was gonna, which actually I probably have notes, which will be super somewhere. I hope I can find them, which will be super helpful for this podcast. I was going through and reading Gail Simone's run of Birds of Prey, and I was writing notes.
Oh, really?
And I was gonna do a blog, and I think I managed like 2 or 3 blog posts before I was like, this is so much work, and I felt like no one was reading it. Where this, again, like I was telling Raven when we kind of were pitching this podcast idea, why have we not thought of this before? Because this is so much easier than doing like a blog or a website or even a fan film, because we can just show up in our pajamas and talk about things we really like and know about and hit record and be done with it. Like, it's so much easier. I'm so mad we didn't think of this earlier. I'm so
I didn't know
mad.
podcasts. In all honesty, I didn't know podcasts were such a big thing. You know, like I didn't know that was a thing because I never listened to podcasts, in all honesty.
Yeah, I just recently started getting into them. And that's only because, I draw. So I am an artist, so I draw all the time. And I've finally ran through all of my TV shows and movies that I put on just to have noise and music and all that stuff. I finally kind of am sick of listening to the same thing. So I've started exploring podcasts, and I've listened to a few before, like Birds of Prey again. There's one that I came in contact with a few years ago called Broken Wings, and that is dedicated to the Birds of Prey TV show. But because there's only 13 episodes of the show, they don't have a lot of content, and most of Matt's podcast is just interviews. But since he can't really track down a lot of people from a show that was, oh my God, what? Almost 15 years ago. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I know. Almost 15 years ago that, he can't get a lot of people. So there's only a handful of episodes. There's one that's kind of a review of the actual show or like the first episode. And then the rest are interviews. He did happen though to get Ashley Scott, who is the main actress who played Huntress. That's a really fun interview. But yeah, there's not a lot there, so I'm not super versed in podcasts. And then I've been exploring podcasts lately just to kind of fill up my quiet room while I work, but yeah, not super versed in podcasts, and aware they were there, but not really aware of the sheer volume and genres that are out there, and the really broad listener, the listener group out there is huge. So just kind of slipped under the radar, but I'm glad we were here, and I'm glad we've discovered them, and I'm glad we're here doing our very first show, and yeah.
I'm excited that he invited me.
I know. I really wanted to have someone with me, just because I think it's more interesting,
Yeah, it's
and
more fun to have
and too, it's
people.
nice to have someone help keep me online. Like otherwise, I will.
That's my job. I'm
Yeah.
project manager.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Because I'll just I'll start talking, and then I'll diverge to Batman Returns for 7 episodes, because I'll just be like, what this reminds me of. And then I'll just end up talking about the same thing over and over and over. So yeah, I definitely need someone to help rope in my very broad brain and keep it focused on a topic. And it's just nice too to have a different opinion and a fresh set of eyes to the to throw ideas off of and with. So yeah, I'm very glad we're here, and I'm very glad we're doing this, and hopefully you guys join us and continue and put up with our craziness, or especially mine. And yeah, it's very exciting, and we're getting very close to the 40-minute mark, which that happened too much easier than
Wow. Yeah.
I thought. 8 minutes to 40. It was a breeze.
It seems like 5 minutes ago.
Hopefully you guys agree, and yeah, hopefully you join us for our next podcast, which we'll hopefully get to in the future. And I guess we should address where you can find us. Clearly, this is our first one, so it won't be on iTunes instantly. I think I'm going to put us on SoundCloud first, and then from there I can get us onto iTunes, and then I might even put us on YouTube just for sheer chance of getting our like name out there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And there are
YouTube's
other
a pretty big
places.
platform,
Exactly.
so.
YouTube is huge, so I'm hoping people will stumble upon us and like us and want to follow us on YouTube and SoundCloud and iTunes, and do the awesome thing about YouTube too is they have comments, so we can see what people have to say.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you don't hate us.
Send positive feedback.
Exactly.
Constructive criticism.
Exactly. Positive comments only. Disclaimer.
Your other ones will be deleted.
So yeah, hopefully that would be nice. And then two, we do have an email address. It's clocktowerfiles@gmail.com. So if you don't want to comment on YouTube or iTunes, assuming we get there, you can always email us there directly. We will respond, and feel free to send us constructive criticism, opinions, thoughts on shows, characters you'd like us to do,
Yeah.
like anything like that, anything you'd like us to see, because we're all fans, made by fans for fans. So if you have a topic you'd like to hear us drone on about for, an hour or half an hour, let us know and we'll try to get to it and see if we can fit it in. So thanks for joining us. We are going to come back next time with probably Wonder Woman, just because it's the hot thing right now. And we look forward to seeing you, and I guess Oracle and Raven out.
Bye, guys.